The massive starship Harmony moved silently through the dark void of space, its hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. Captain Kim Hayan walked slowly across the bridge, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. He had been in command of Earth's most advanced exploration vessel for 3 years, but he had never seen anything like what lay before them now. Through the giant viewing screen, a planet hung in space like a broken jewel. What should have been blue oceans and green continents was nothing but brown and gray wasteland. Smoke still rose from massive craters that dotted the surface like infected wounds. How long ago did this happen? Hayan asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Lieutenant Park Jun, a young officer with kind eyes that now looked haunted, checked his instruments again. His hands shook slightly as he worked. Based on the radiation decay patterns, sir, I estimate 6 months, maybe 7. Hayan nodded slowly. 6 months ago, this world had been home to the R'Lani, a species known throughout the galaxy for their beautiful art and peaceful nature. They had never hurt anyone. They had no weapons capable of space travel. They were farmers, artists, musicians. Their greatest achievement had been a form of crystal sculpture that could sing when touched. By sunlight. Commander Li Min stood at her tactical station, her face hard with anger. She had served in Earth's defense forces before joining the exploration corps. She knew weapons, and she knew death. Sir, I'm reading weapon signatures across the entire planet. Plasma bombardment from orbit, followed by chemical weapons released into the atmosphere. Chemical weapons. Hyun turned to look at her. Against civilians? Yes, sir. The atmosphere is still toxic. Nothing could survive down there now. Not even bacteria. Park Chen's voice cracked as he spoke. Captain, I'm detecting the remains of several cities. The largest one had nearly 2 million inhabitants. He paused, swallowing hard. There are no life signs anywhere on the planet. Hyun felt something cold settle in his stomach. 2 million people, gone, just like that. He had seen war before, had fought in the border conflicts near Proxima Centauri, but this was different. This was not war. This was murder on a scale that made him feel sick. Can you identify the weapons used? He asked Li Min. The tactical officer worked at her console for several minutes, running the scanner data through the ship's computer. When she looked up, her face was pale. Sir, the energy signatures match Vorthok Empire technology. They're heavy battlecruisers and orbital bombardment platforms. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew about the Vorthok Empire. They were one of the most powerful members of the Galactic Consortium, the alliance of species that governed most of the known galaxy. Earth had joined the consortium only 10 years ago, and humans were still considered newcomers by most alien species. Did this? Park Jin asked, his voice filled with disbelief. But they're part of the consortium. They're supposed to follow the same laws we do. Hyun walked to the captain's chair and sat down heavily. His mind was racing. The R'Lani had been under consortium protection. Their world was supposed to be safe. But if the Vorthok had done this, and if they were still members of the consortium in good standing, then what did that mean? Sir, Li Min said softly, there's something else. The quantum crystal deposits on this planet were some of the richest in the galaxy. They're used in faster-than-light drives and energy weapons. And now they belong to whoever claims this. World Hin finished. The pieces were starting to fit together, and he did not like the picture they formed. Park Jen was studying his scanner readings more carefully. Captain, I'm picking up mining equipment signatures in several locations. Large-scale operations. They're already extracting the crystals. Vorthok mining operations. Yes, sir. They moved fast. The mining platforms were probably in position before the bombardment even ended. Hayon closed his eyes for a moment. This had been planned. The R'Lani had been murdered for their resources, and the killers were already harvesting the rewards. It was efficient, brutal, and completely illegal under consortium law. But if the Vorthok were still members of the consortium, then either the law meant nothing, or the consortium leadership did not care about enforcing it. Download everything, Hayon ordered, his voice now hard as steel. Every piece of evidence, every scanner reading, every image. I want a complete record of what happened here. Sir, should we approach the planet for a closer scan? Park Jun asked. Negative. We stay at safe distance. But I want proof that the galaxy can't ignore. Hyun stood up and walked to the communications station. Send a priority message to Earth Command. Tell them we need to meet with the Consortium Council immediately. As the crew worked to gather evidence, Hyun stared at the dead world on the screen. 2 million innocent people had died here, and their killers were already counting their profits. The Galactic Consortium, the organization that was supposed to protect species like the Relani, had either failed completely or was part of the problem. Deep in his heart, Kim Hyun already suspected which one it was. Dr. Choi Soo rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the clock on her laboratory wall. It was 3 in the morning, but she could not sleep. For the past 3 months, she had been working day and night, studying the data that Captain Kim Yoon had brought back from the dead Relani world. What she had found made her stomach turn. The laboratory was quiet, except for the soft humming of computers. Blue holographic displays floated in the air around her desk, each one showing a different planet. But these were not normal planets anymore. They were graveyards. Computer, show me the timeline again, she said softly. The holograms changed, arranging themselves in a line. 12 worlds appeared, each one marked with a date. The earliest was 97 years ago. The most recent was the Relani homeworld, destroyed just 6 months ago. Choi Soo walked slowly along the line of dead worlds, studying each one. The Kethera, a species of peaceful traders, wiped out 85 years ago. The Myloni, who had been famous for their healing medicines, destroyed 73 years ago. The Tessari, brilliant mathematicians, eliminated 61 years ago. On and on the list went. 12 different species, 12 different worlds, all reduced to ash and bone. But the most terrible thing was not just that they were dead. It was how they had died. Every single attack showed the same pattern. Orbital bombardment, chemical weapons, complete destruction of all life. And then, within weeks, Vorthok mining operations moved in to harvest whatever resources the dead worlds contained. Her computer chimed softly. An incoming transmission from Earth's capital. Choi Soo straightened her white lab coat and activated the secure communication channel. The faces of Earth's most important leaders appeared on her screen. President Nam. Ki sat at the head of a long table, his gray hair neat, despite the early hour. General Yang Ho, the head of Earth's military forces, sat to his right, his uniform crisp, and his expression serious. Several other council members filled the rest of the screen. Dr. Choi, President Nam said, his voice calm but tired. What do you have for us? Choi Soo took a deep breath. The pattern is undeniable, Mr. President. 12 species, 12 worlds, all eliminated by Vorthok forces over the past century. She gestured to the holographic displays behind her. Every attack follows the same method. Every world contained valuable resources. Every mining operation began within a month of the genocide. General Yang Ho leaned forward, his eyes hard. 12 species in 100 years. That's systematic extermination. Yes, sir. This is not random violence. This is organized, planned genocide for profit. The council members looked at each other with growing anger. These were people who had spent their lives trying to build a peaceful future for humanity. They had joined the Galactic Consortium, believing it would bring peace and cooperation between species. Now they were learning that the consortium allowed its members to commit murder on an unimaginable scale. What about our diplomatic efforts? President Nam asked. Has the consortium responded to our evidence? Another face appeared on the screen. Ambassador Han Sol looked exhausted and frustrated. He had just returned from the consortium's capital world, where he had spent weeks trying to present Earth's evidence to the Galactic Council. They dismissed everything, Mr. President, Han said, his voice bitter. Chancellor Vex, the head of the council, told me I needed to understand the complexities of galactic politics. He said that resource conflicts between species were normal, and that humans were too young to understand how the galaxy really works. General Yang Ho's face turned red with anger. Resource conflicts. They're calling genocide a resource conflict. It gets worse, Han continued. When I insisted on presenting our evidence, the Vorthok representative stood up and laughed. He said humans were another primitive species that would learn their place. The entire council sat there and let him say it. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The Galactic Consortium was not going to help. They either did not care about genocide, or they were actively supporting it. Earth was alone. President Namki sat back in his chair, his expression growing cold and hard. Ambassador Han, I want you to recall all our diplomatic personnel from Consortium space. Bring them home immediately. Sir, that will be seen as an act of isolation, Han warned. The other species will think we're giving up our place in the galaxy. Good, Nam replied, his voice like ice. Let them think we're cowering in fear. Let them think we're running away with our tails between our legs. General Yang Ho smiled grimly. They have no idea what they've just awakened. Exactly, President Nam said. For the past 10 years, we've played by their rules. We've been polite, diplomatic, peaceful. We've hidden our true capabilities because we wanted to be good galactic citizens. But if the consortium thinks genocide is acceptable politics, then we need to reconsider our approach. Dr. Choi Su watched the faces of Earth's leaders and felt a chill run down her spine. She had spent her life studying alien cultures, learning about their art and music and literature. She had believed in the dream of peaceful cooperation between species. But now she realized that some species were not interested in peace. They were interested in power, and they saw kindness as weakness. What are your orders, Mr. President? General Yang Ho asked. Namki looked directly into the camera, his eyes cold and determined. Activate Project Reckoning. It's time to show the galaxy what humans are really capable of when we stop pretending to be harmless. 2 years had passed since Earth went silent. In the grand halls of the Galactic Consortium, alien diplomats went about their daily business, with barely a thought for the missing human representatives. Occasionally, someone would mention Earth during council meetings, but most assumed the young species had finally learned their place in the galactic order. The humans were always too emotional, Chancellor Vex told his advisors one morning. They could not handle the realities of galactic politics. It is better that they stay on their little world and leave important matters to more mature species. The Vorthok ambassador laughed when the topic came up. I told you they were primitive. One harsh lesson, and they ran back to their home system like frightened children. They will not bother us again, but far from the consortium capital, on a world called Earth. Something incredible was happening. Admiral Yoon Soo stood on a platform, high above the largest construction facility any human had ever built. The massive structure stretched across the horizon like a metal ocean, its assembly lines running day and night, without stopping. The sound was deafening. Millions of machines, working together to create instruments of war. Yoon Soo was an old soldier who had fought in Earth's early space conflicts. She had gray hair and tired eyes, but her back was straight and her voice was strong. She had seen what humans could do when they were pushed too far, and she knew the galaxy was about to learn the same lesson. Admiral, called Colonel Beek Min as he climbed the stairs to reach her platform. He was younger than Yoon Soo, but his face looked older than it should. 2 years of constant work had aged everyone involved in Project Reckoning. What's our status, Colonel? Yoon Soo asked, without taking her eyes off the production lines below. Project Reckoning is ahead of schedule, Beekman reported, checking his datapad. All fleets will be ready within the month. The new battleships are performing beyond expectations in testing. The stealth destroyers are completely invisible to consortium sensors. And the orbital bombardment platforms, ... He paused, looking uncomfortable. They're more powerful than anything we originally planned. Yunsu nodded slowly. For decades, Earth had hidden its true military capabilities from the galaxy. When humans first made contact with alien species, they had made a deliberate choice to appear weak and peaceful. Their exploration ships carried light weapons. Their defensive platforms looked simple and outdated. Their military doctrine emphasized protection and rescue missions. It had all been a carefully planned deception. The truth was that humans had been preparing for war since the day they first looked up at the stars. Earth's history was filled with conflict, and its people understood that peace could only be maintained by those strong enough to defend it. But they had hoped that joining the Galactic Consortium would mean they never had to show their true strength. They had been wrong. Have the cargo ship conversions been completed? Yunsu asked. Yes, Admiral, all of them. The galaxy thinks we have a merchant fleet of 3,000 ships carrying trade goods between star systems. They have no idea that each one is actually a fully armed warship with enough firepower to destroy a planet. For 2 years, human cargo ships had been moving through consortium space, mapping defense positions, studying enemy capabilities, and positioning themselves for what was to come. The aliens saw peaceful traders bringing exotic goods from Earth. They had no idea. They were looking at the most advanced military fleet in galactic history. What about intelligence gathering? Yunsu asked. Complete. We know the location of every Vorthok military base, every government facility, every mining operation built on the graves of murdered species. We have detailed maps of their defense, networks and communication systems. When we strike, they will have no time to respond. Yunsu finally turned away from the production lines to look at Colonel Beekman and the other consortium species, the ones who stood by and did nothing while genocide happened. We have complete files on all of them. Military capabilities, political structures, economic weaknesses. If they choose to stand with the Vorthok, we are ready for them too. The Admiral walked to the edge of the platform and looked out over the facility. Thousands of human workers moved between the assembly lines, building weapons that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. These people had spent 2 years working in secret, creating tools of war, while the rest of the galaxy thought Earth was hiding in fear. Send the activation code to all fleet commanders, Yunsu ordered. It's time. Yes, Admiral. And the message. Yunsu was quiet for a long moment. She thought about the 12 dead worlds, the murdered species, the consortium leaders who had laughed at human concerns about genocide. She thought about Chancellor Vex telling humans they were too young to understand galactic politics. She thought about the Vorthok ambassador calling them primitive. Broadcast this message on all human frequencies, she said, her voice hard as steel. Now we stop being civilized. Throughout human space, the message was received and understood. On distant worlds, in hidden bases, aboard ships disguised as harmless traders. Human military personnel heard those words and smiled grimly. They had been civilized for 2 years while they planned and prepared. They had been diplomatic while they gathered intelligence. They had been peaceful while they built the most powerful war machine in galactic history. Now it was time to show the galaxy what humans were really capable of when they stopped pretending to be harmless. The age of human restraint was over. Commander. Shinyu sat quietly in the captain's chair of his stealth destroyer, watching the enemy patrol ship on his scanner. The Vorthok vessel moved slowly through space, its crew completely unaware that death was approaching from behind. Distance to target, you asked softly. 2,000 meters, and closing, his weapons officer replied. They still haven't detected us. You nodded. The human stealth technology was working perfectly. For 2 years, Earth's scientists had developed new ways to hide ships from alien sensors. The Vorthok patrol vessel had no idea that a human destroyer was following just behind them, invisible and deadly. "Sir, the target is beginning its routine scan of the asteroid field," reported the sensor operator. "They're looking for human activity in this sector." You almost smiled. The Vorthok were searching for signs that humans might be hiding in their territory. They had no idea that human ships had been operating in Vorthok space for months, mapping every defense system and recording every patrol route. "Weapons status?" you asked. "Fusion cannons are charged and ready. Target is locked." You took a deep breath. This was the moment everything changed. For 2 years, Earth had been preparing for this day. Now the hunting season began. Fire. The fusion cannons erupted in silent fury, sending beams of pure energy across the darkness of space. The Vorthok patrol ship simply disappeared, vaporized, so quickly that its crew never knew what hit them. Where a moment before, there had been a living vessel with 30 alien crew members, now there was nothing but scattered particles drifting in the void. "Target eliminated," he reported calmly into his communication device. Moving to next coordinates. Across the vast Vorthok Empire, similar scenes were playing out. Human hunter-killer groups appeared out of nowhere, striking military bases, destroying patrol fleets, and vanishing before any response could be organized. The aliens had no time to send distress calls. They had no chance to fight back. They simply died. Commander Park Woo led an attack on a major Vorthok military station orbiting a gas giant. His squadron of 6 destroyers emerged from quantum space, in perfect formation, their weapons already charging. "All ships, target the station's main reactor," Park ordered. "We want a clean kill with no survivors to warn others." The attack lasted less than 3 minutes. The military station, which had housed over 2,000 Vorthok soldiers, became a expanding cloud of gas and metal. Park's ships collected their data on enemy capabilities and jumped back into quantum space before any reinforcements could arrive. But the largest battle was taking place at the Vorthok homeworld itself. Fleet Admiral Cho Sam commanded the assault from the bridge of the massive battleship Retribution. Around him, the largest human fleet ever assembled moved into attack formation. Sam was an old warrior who had fought in Earth's colonial wars decades earlier. He had gray hair and scars on his hands from ancient battles, but his eyes were sharp and his voice was steady as he watched the Vorthok defense fleet scramble to meet his forces. "Sir, enemy fleet is moving to intercept," reported his tactical officer. 47 capital ships, over 200 smaller vessels. "How long until they reach firing range?" Sam asked. 18 minutes. Sam nodded and opened a communication channel to the enemy fleet. "This is Admiral Cho Sam of the United Earth Forces. You have been found guilty of genocide against 12 species. Your surrender will be accepted only for the purpose of formal trial. Resistance will result in total annihilation." The reply came quickly, filled with the arrogance that had made the Vorthok so hated throughout the galaxy. "You primitive species, dare to threaten the mighty Vorthok Empire? We will crush your pathetic fleet, and then burn your homeworld to ash." Sam looked at his communication officer and shook his head. Cut transmission. The human fleet opened fire. What followed was not a battle. It was a demonstration of just how far ahead human military technology had advanced during their 2 years of isolation. Vorthok ships that had seemed powerful when attacking defenseless planets now looked like toys compared to the human war machines. Human fusion beams cut through Vorthok armor like it was paper. Human missiles tracked their targets with perfect accuracy, avoiding defensive fire with impossible grace. Human shields absorbed fire without even flickering. Within 1 hour, the entire Vorthok defense fleet was destroyed. Not a single human ship had been seriously damaged, but Sam was not finished. He opened another communication channel. this time broadcasting to the entire galaxy. This is Admiral Cho Sam of the United Earth Forces, speaking to all members of the Galactic Consortium. For 100 years, you have allowed the Vorthok Empire to commit genocide against peaceful species. You have ignored the evidence. You have dismissed our protests. You have called us primitive and told us to learn our place. Sam paused, looking out at the burning remains of the Vorthok fleet. Today, you learn what humans are truly capable of, when we stop being civilized. The Vorthok Empire no longer exists. Their military is destroyed. Their government will face trial for crimes against all life in the galaxy, and any species that supported them, or that commits similar crimes in the future, will share their fate. Across the galaxy, alien leaders watched the destruction of one of the consortium's most powerful members and realized that everything had changed. The young species from Earth was no longer asking for permission to exist. They had become the most dangerous predators in known space, and they were just getting started. General Kongbo walked through the ruins of what had once been the proudest city in the Vorthok Empire. Broken towers reached toward the sky, like the bones of dead giants. The streets were filled with rubble, and the smell of smoke still hung in the air. Even though the fighting had ended weeks ago, in the center of the destroyed capital, human engineers had built a simple courthouse from metal and concrete. It was not beautiful, but it was strong, and it served its purpose. Inside, the most important trial in galactic history was taking place. Kongbo entered the courtroom and looked at the defendant's table. 7 Vorthok leaders sat in heavy chains, their proud heads now hanging in defeat. These were the beings who had ordered the deaths of 12 entire species. They had commanded fleets that burned worlds and poisoned atmospheres. They had grown rich on the resources stolen from the graves of murdered civilizations. Now they sat like broken dolls, waiting to hear their fate. "How do they plead?" asked Judge Kim Hwa, a stern woman who had spent her career prosecuting war criminals on Earth. The lead Vorthok prisoner raised his head with the last bit of arrogance he could manage. "We recognize no authority from a primitive species like yours. We demand to be returned to consortium custody." Judge Kim Hwa looked at him with cold eyes. "The consortium had 100 years to bring you to justice. They chose to ignore your crimes. Earth will not make the same mistake." Captain Osei approached General Kang Bo with a datapad in her hand. She looked nervous, which was unusual for such an experienced officer. "Sir, we have an urgent transmission from the Galactic Consortium. Chancellor Vex himself is requesting immediate negotiations with Earth." Kang Bo took the datapad and read the message. Chancellor Vex, the same alien leader who had dismissed human concerns about genocide 2 years ago, was now begging for a meeting. The message spoke of mutual understanding and galactic stability and the need for diplomatic solutions. "What should I tell them?" Captain Osei asked. Kongbo looked through the courthouse window at a group of R'Lani refugees who were being helped by human medical teams. These were the few survivors who had been off-world when their planet was destroyed. They were the lucky ones. Their families, their friends, their entire civilization was gone forever. "Tell Chancellor Vex that we will negotiate when the consortium accepts the Genocide Prevention Accord," Kongbo said. "Every member species must agree that systematic extermination will result in immediate military response from Earth, and if they refuse..." Kongbo's expression grew hard. "Then they will learn what happened to the last species that thought genocide was acceptable policy." Far away on Earth, President Namki stood in his office, preparing to address the entire galaxy. Through his window, he could see the lights of the capital city stretching to the horizon. 2 years ago, this had been the home of a species that most aliens considered young and naive. Now, it was the center of the most powerful military force in known space. The cameras began recording, and Namki looked directly into the lens. His words would be broadcast to every world in the galaxy, translated into hundreds of alien languages. My fellow beings, he began, his voice calm but firm. For 10 years, humanity tried to be good galactic citizens. We joined the consortium in good faith. We offered friendship, cooperation, and peace. We followed your laws and respected your customs. We believed that civilization meant working together to protect the innocent and help those in need. Images appeared on the screen behind him. The dead worlds, the murdered species. The evidence of systematic genocide that the consortium had ignored. But when civilization failed to protect the innocent, we remembered what we truly are. We are the descendants of survivors who fought for millions of years to reach the stars. We are the children of warriors who never gave up, never surrendered, and never forgot that sometimes violence is the only way to stop evil. The image changed to show human fleets patrolling the ruins of Vorthok space. Rescue ships were helping refugees find new homes. Medical vessels were treating survivors of the genocide. Military platforms guarded the approaches to formerly threatened worlds. We are humanity, Namki continued. We chose to be civilized. We chose to be peaceful. We chose to trust in law and diplomacy and cooperation. But when faced with evil, we choose justice instead. We choose to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We choose to ensure that never again will entire species be murdered for profit. The transmission showed human soldiers standing guard over war crimes tribunals, human doctors treating alien refugees, human engineers rebuilding destroyed infrastructure on liberated worlds. Any species that commits systematic extermination will face the same fate as the Vorthok Empire. This is not a threat. This is a promise. We gave peace a chance, and it failed. Now we give justice a chance, and it will not fail. The broadcast ended, but its message echoed across the galaxy, in council chambers and military headquarters, on trade stations and colony worlds. Alien leaders realized that everything had changed. The humans were not the galaxy's weakest species. They were apex predators who had chosen to be peaceful until peace was no longer enough. That choice could be revoked at any time, and now everyone knew it. Some species were terrified. Others were grateful. All of them understood that the galaxy now had a new guardian, one that would not hesitate to use overwhelming force to protect the innocent. The age of genocide was over. The age of human justice had begun.